All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Saturday morning for the Swift Accelerator Class of 2025 program briefing. So I'm YJ.
And I'm Jiachen.
And we are going to get started right now. I should note that this briefing will be recorded, so you can, get the link after the event and feel free to share it with anyone who can't make it today. But, let's get started. You'll notice that on screen, we do have a QR code for you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to fill in the form while I'm talking. The chat is disabled in Zoom, but you can just ask any questions you want over there. I ask everyone to please just send in one question at a time. And yeah, we will address them by the end of this briefing. Okay.
Yeah. If we're not able to get back to you on your question, you can leave your email address and we'll send you an email with the response.
Okay, so this is what we're going to go through. We might not take the entire full hour, but once again, if you need to leave, not to worry, it's recorded. Okay, so we're going to talk about the people, the program, the how to apply, and take some questions at the very end. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the people behind this initiative. So you know our names. I'm YJ. This is Jiachen. This program is funded by the Infocom Media Development Authority. That's the folks who run the Infocom Media Clubs in schools. And some of you might come from the Infocom Media Clubs. You know that they've been running all these training programs for you in schools. This is an out-of-school program, and we'll talk more about it in a moment, but it's been strongly supported by IMDA for the last 7 years. We are truly appreciative for all their support. And, so I think that's really something that we really want to highlight. We also, of course, are hosted by Apple, and we'll talk about that afterwards. So my name is YJ. I'm from a company called the Think Academy. We are part of the Apple Consultants Network, and we do various things. And one of the key things is that we make stuff, right? We run classes in schools. Maybe you've encountered my colleagues in your classes in the Infocom Media Club. But the general idea is that we develop apps for use in school, for use ourselves. Okay, and we develop curriculum, we teach a bunch of things, all right? But for this particular class, we are teaching app development. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about stuff that we've done, right? I guess just as a form of credibility building, right? Why take this class with us? Okay, and these are slides that I've been using since we started this program way back in 2018. So these apps are very old. Some of them don't exist, and I think Jiachen over here will tell you a bit more about more recent things that he's built and some of the things that our students have been building in the meantime. So this is an app called Teacher's Pet. So I used to be a teacher. I'll tell you more about myself in a moment, all right? But and my co-founder, Akmal, he also used to be a teacher. So when we first started the company way back in 2012, we thought, well, this is the time when the iPhone is just getting really popular. Everyone wants an app. Everyone thinks that there's a whole gold mine of when building your own apps. And so we thought, we know what teachers want. Let's build an app for teachers. So we built an app. Okay, and we learned how to build an app. We figured out, various things. We thought, okay, let's build an app where teachers, when they walk into a classroom, they have a lot of things to manage, right? They have to give out worksheets. They have to make sure that, that guy is not kicking that other guy, things like that. And they need to note these things down. This fellow over here forgot to bring his homework, right? The other one over there owes me $10. Not sure if that's the kind of thing that happens in class. Okay, but these are the things that teachers need to note down, right? So we thought, let's build an app, right? Let's build an app and, let's let the teacher record all these things down. Your teachers probably do that expertly with their, handwritten notes and maybe, just notes apps nowadays. So we thought, let's have a specialized one. You go into the classroom, you know exactly what your schedule knows exactly what class you're in right now. You'll pull up a class list, you tap on the student's name and says, this person owes me $10 or whatever, right? Then it'll remind you the next time you step into the classroom. Nice concept, okay? But I think one of the things that we discovered as we built the app is that it's not just about building the app. And that's a theme that's going to come up during this briefing. It's not just about building it. After we built it, we still have to make sure that, it's a problem that needed to be solved. We didn't really talk to a lot of teachers when we built it. So we kind of just, I think people want this app, let's go and build it, okay? So that's something that we try to address in this program, right? Making sure that you spend some time thinking about the problems, figuring out whether you want to solve them. But yeah, we built it, we released it, we made, I think, let me see how much we made from this app. I think we made about $300 or $400 from this app. which is sounds like a decent amount of money, but it's certainly not enough to sustain, 3 co-founders who are, spending a month or more on an app. So I think we ended up buying some curry puffs and calling it a day on the app. So yeah, that's one of the apps that we built. Here's another one. This app is called IC Photo. It is a very old app. We built it way back in 2011 or 2012, and it holds a special place in our heart for a couple of reasons. This is the app that, I mean, first of all, yes, that's my stupid face on the right hand side of the screen. I apologize, right? We couldn't afford to hire anyone to take the photo. So this app holds a special place in our hearts because this is how we learned to build for iOS. So when the iPhone first came out, there was a software development kit that followed shortly after. And me and my co-founders, we did have the experience. We knew how to program, right? We knew web development, we knew some game development and things like that. But we didn't know how to program for iPhone. So we went online, we found a course. Okay, there was a nice course by Stanford University, and they released it for free. And we watched it, and then we had no idea what to do. All right, we watched the whole thing and then watched it another time, and then we're like, we have no idea what to do. We still don't know how to make an app. And what really clicked for us was at the age of 30. So this is kind of like revealing my age a little bit. At the age of 30, you have to change your NRIC, right? For the Singaporeans out there, right? You know that you have an NRIC card. You have this amazing photo they take of you at age 13 or 16 or something like that, 12. All right. And then they let you have that silly kid photo with you until you're 30 years old, when you presumably look a bit different. So at age 30, we had to submit our new IC photos. And at the time, people weren't used to taking pictures with their phones. And what you do is you take a camera, you take a picture, and then you have to crop it with some, photo editing software. And we used to do this for our friends and family because we were the IT nerds in our families, right? And we thought, why don't we just build an app, right? You can take a selfie, take a useful selfie. I think this was even before the term selfie was, in the mainstream consciousness. And it was very simple, right? We just tell people, align your eyes here, align your mouth here, take a photo. And the fun thing is, we made this, right? It was a hit for some reason. I think local blogger, Mr. Brown, picked up on it and mentioned it. And there were a whole bunch of downloads. We hit number 2 on the App Store for free apps at some point. We lost to Angry Birds or something. And I think when we had an app to build, right? When we had an app to build, that's when we actually could apply our learning. That's when we realized, oh, how do you put this image over here? How do you overlay this thing on top of the other thing? Let's go and figure out the documentation. Let's go rewatch some of those videos. Let's go actually apply what we know, right? Does this work? Let's test it out with some people. And that's one of the things we want to highlight, because for this program, we want to make sure that you are building things, all right? It's not just about me talking. I mean, I will happily talk to you for 3 hours, right? You will be very sad by the end of it, all right? But you will not be able to build an app. Okay, you might be very entertained, you might hear stories and everything, but you will not be able to build an app if you don't put your fingers to your keyboard and actually start typing code. And that's the lesson that we learned, and that's the lesson that we hope to bring to this program. The other thing is just the joy of creation, just having something out there, building an app and releasing it to the public. So this app is available for download, right? Feel free to download it. We have not updated it in maybe 9 or 10 years. I apologize for that. One day we will get around to it. But what was really gratifying is that, sometimes I actually see people using it. People will tell me that they use it, right? If I had you at a live audience right now, I would ask for a show of hands to see who actually used it, but you're not here. Sometimes inevitably there'll be one person who say, yeah, I use it for my passport, it worked, right? I actually saw one time in a shopping mall, there was this mom holding up her phone to the kid, and the kid was like standing against the white background, and then she was like tapping and like just surreptitiously looked over, and yeah, that was my app. And that's just a really cool feeling, like having someone actually using it. And that's something that we want to be able to let you experience in this class as well. So by the end of this class, you will be building an app that will be on the App Store, and you will release it to the public, and your friends and family can download it, assuming they're on iPhone. Okay, so just one more thing I want to talk about, which is another app that we've made. This is called Guest Day. The origin story of this is I just thought it was entertaining, and it relates a bit to what we want to do in this class. The idea was that all the way back in 2009, all right, I was at the age where my friends were getting married, okay? And for the parents who are attending this, I suppose, You probably know the pain of this, where you have friends getting married every week, it seems, depending on how big your social circle is, and then you have to attend weddings, you have to give ang paos. Right. Happy New Year, by the way. And our friend asked us, can you help us with a registration table? And us, right, me and my co-founders, being the annoying nerds that we were, we thought, let's build something for that. This was a pre-app era, so we built something with computers, we strung them together, we brought monitors down, we just made a mess of things. And I just thought it was a great experience for us. And in the end, our friend still talks to us, I think. Okay, so it was just nice to be able to build something and have people use it. And we actually productized it. We actually made it into a real product where we make available this app for people to download, and we make it a service for events people to use it. So initially we thought, we can have a business of setting up this thing for weddings. We realized that wedding clients are not repeat clients. All right, let me just put it out there again. Wedding clients tend not to be repeat clients. They won't come back and hold the wedding again, hopefully. All right, but event companies, they'll hold these things year on year. So yeah, we actually made a nice small business out of it. It's a nice little side business that we had. And I think that speaks to the idea of iteration, right? We had something out there. We realized that with the wrong audience, we rethought what we did, we rebuilt it, and now we don't do very much with it now. We kind of lost a bunch of steam when the pandemic came about, but it was still a very interesting experience for us. We still run the service sometimes. Okay, so that's enough about the company. Let me introduce the two of us real quick once again. All right, that's me and that's Jiachen. So we are what you might call the lead instructors for the program. The fun thing about this is that Jiachen was a participant in the program in the very first year, the class of 2018. So I'll let him introduce himself in a bit. Let me just quickly run through my slides about what I have to share. So this is me. My name is YJ. I'm a co-founder of this company called Think Academy. And in terms of what I do for Swift Accelerator, we kind of take slightly different roles. I tend to run through a bit more lectures. I'll record some videos and things like that for the class. This is me. I used to be a teacher. I went to study overseas. So all of this is nice little background just to kind of like build a bit of credibility, I hope. Okay. I went to Stanford. Stanford was a very nice place, but what it really inspired me was their intro CS program. Right? And they still run it. They do this thing where instead of teaching you how to program and outputting characters on the screen, they actually build an entire framework for you to build real things. So if you're learning Python, if you're learning C++, for us, they built an entire framework for us to build a browser. So there's a lot of stuff that they prepare, and they say, hey, instead of learning purely about reading strings, your job is to build a browser. And along the way, you will learn how to interpret strings, work with arrays, and things like that. Okay, so when I came back, I taught at Raffles Institution for a while. We still run the computer elective program there. And I left the teaching service and started this company in 2011 after a stint at MOE. And I just want to quickly go through a bit about how I started learning programming. For me, I learned with this little thing, right? It's this logo. It's a turtle, right? If you've ever done Python programming, you've probably seen this before, okay? And along the way, things have really changed, right? So there are a lot of different ways to learn how to code, and I won't bore you with the details. All of this is really just to give you a sense and build up to what we're trying to do right now. You notice that everything that I did for learning to code, the most effective thing was just putting my hands to the keyboard and typing it out and making something that people can see, that I can actually see tangibly. Okay, so my question right now, I guess for you is, why join this program? There are so many ways for you to learn nowadays. Okay, so back in my day, I can't believe I'm saying those words. All right, back in my day, you learn to code, right? You can put primitive little graphics on screen. You can make a bunch of text. All right, and learning was a lot harder. Right, you had to go to lectures. You had to read books. You had to find the books online. Not even online. There was no online to find books. You had to go to the library, and I picked out a random C++ book that I didn't understand when I was a young boy, and I was traumatized for life. So, but what's changed? Now you can actually go online and you can learn to code yourself. One of the things that we do is we actually prepare a whole bunch of these videos, and you can actually see them online, right? And we're not the only ones who make these videos. You can actually go online and learn. So why bother coming to class? right? So keep that in mind, right? So we have a limited number of spaces, and if you don't get in, it doesn't mean that you can't learn. It just means that, you know, you might be missing out on a few things, but in that case, why still apply for the program? So that's one thing to think about. The other thing is that since my time, right, what's really changed is that the ability to have your software, have the things that you build, make an impact has really changed. It used to be that when you wanted to build an app, you want to get it released, you have to somehow get it out to people by physical mail. You have to put it in a retail box. But with the advent of things like the App Store and of course other mobile stores and gaming stores and things like that, you really have options for everyone to be able to affect millions and millions of people's lives around the world, right? Some of you might remember this little game, right? It was over 10 years ago by now, I think. This game over here was made by a Vietnamese teenager, not too different from your age for the students among you. And he single-handedly wasted millions and millions and millions of hours of productive time worldwide. Just think of the impact that you could have with that kind of power. And I just think that's pretty cool. So I just, you know, why join, right? Why join if you can learn on your own and you can put all your things out there? First of all, I guess, you know, there'll be people to try to teach and guide you. It's not just me and Jia Chen, right? We have a team of instructors and mentors and things like that. There'll be a lot more resources available to you. And by way of, I'm going to hand over the why join bit to Jia Chen in a bit, but by way of introduction to Jia Chen, I just want to talk a little bit about an app that he made. Okay, so this app is, again, available on the App Store. It's called Friction. All right. And because, you know, Jia Chen and I have been working together on delivering classes for a while, especially during the pandemic, right? There were a lot of online classes. And, you know, I always complain to him, I kind of want to be able to draw on my screen as I teach, right? I want to be able to tell people, hey, look at this part of my screen, right? And what I do right nowadays, I jiggle my mouse and, you know, hopefully people can see. Okay. So I was talking to him about it and I said, oh, here's a $2 app I found. And this made him very, very upset. Okay, he's like, why would anyone just, you know, pay $2 for an app that they can build it? And before I could stop him, he went ahead and built it. Okay, so it's available on the App Store, right? For $2. You can go and download it if you want. But it's an app where you can draw on your iPad and it will show the thing on a Mac screen. Okay, and I think this really kind of like this speaks to why you join a class. You get into a place where you can meet people, you can discuss ideas. You meet people like this who, you know, just randomly build things for fun. You meet people who have interesting problems that you can solve. And there's just a lot more opportunities available that way than just learning by yourself. Okay, so let me quickly do a bit of introduction for Jia Chen. So this guy over here, all right, when he was a student in the class, this was 2018, he had a chance to present to this particular Apple CEO who visited us way back in 2019. And yeah, so and after that, I think he went to Polytechnic and he had a chance to be a mentor all the way at Batam. Okay, I'll say all the way, not that far. All right, he was a mentor at the Apple Developer Academy at Batam, and just the age of 18, right, teaching folks much older than he was. So I think I'm going to hand my time over to him and let him introduce himself and tell you a bit more about what this program is.
Okay. So thanks, YJ. So I'm from the class of 2018. So I started out, you know, back when I was in the program. So now about 7 years ago. And I've always kind of just been a part of the program since. So right now I work alongside YJ and I help to run a lot of challenges. So we'll talk about something called challenge-based learning later, and I'll share more about it later. So some of the experiences I've had so far, so that I sound like I know what I'm doing. So I was an intern at Tinker Tanker. So I was an intern under him for quite a bit. So after I finished my O-levels, I was like, hey, I have this gap of time. Why not make myself useful? So why not just, you know, get an internship at Tinker Tanker? And, you know, I was developing some sort of curriculum along the way. And after that, you know, halfway through, I was like, wait, YJ, can I be the assistant instructor? You know, why not just, you know, help out with the class? Because I've already been coming back every Saturday since. So why not just come back and, you know, actually have a meaningful role? So after being the assistant instructor throughout Polytechnic, you know, towards the end, I was like, oh, I need to find a poly internship. And apparently, for those who are planning to go to poly, you cannot go for an internship in a company that you've already been an intern before. So I had to find a new company. So I went to get an internship at the Apple Developer Academy. So it was really interesting because at the Apple Developer Academy, they took this really unique approach to learning. Instead of what I was super used to, which was, like what you have, where you go into the classroom, you have your teacher come up to you, and then, well, not really up to you, up to the screen, and then talk for maybe an hour, and then you just take notes and stuff like that. They did this interesting concept called challenge-based learning. And we'll go through a lot more about what that is all about. But put simply, it is a more collaborative way of working on things, and a way that, in my view, kind of inspires people to take action and motivates you more to learn. We'll go through more how it works later. And after that, when I came back to Singapore and sometime last year, I was an adjunct lecturer for Ngee Poly. So I was running iOS classes with Ngee Polytechnic. So my journey really started back in 2018 in Swift Accelerator. So this is me, very differently hyped compared to now. Now I think we're like closing the gap on height. But yes, so this was me back in 2018 when I graduated from Swift Accelerator. And after I graduated, I did this thing where I was like, you know what, I'm very free on the weekends because I just finished this program. Why not I just come back? So I came back. This was day one of Swift Accelerator 2019. I was still very short then. Actually, this is the exact same room. But yeah, so I was like, oh, let me just come back and help out. So I was helping to just run a bunch of fun activities and stuff. And, slowly we started to do more stuff. So this was me presenting to Tim about one of my apps, and I think two of my apps actually back then. And it was quite interesting. So I was working more and, doing more of these kinds of presentations and stuff. And later on, I went to the Apple Developer Academy and did an internship. So this is an apple.com feature. And one of the very nice things is last year I was invited to Cupertino, so to Apple's HQ for WWDC. And it was an amazing week. There was a whole community there. And that actually brings me to my next point about the community. One of the things that we've worked really hard over the past 7 years is really build up this iOS community in Singapore. Yes, there were iOS developers in Singapore, and there was an active iOS developer community, but we wanted to connect students more with the community as well. And this brings me to some of the other initiatives that I've worked on. So the Swift Accelerator community, we really came out of literally nothing. So it was a bunch of us who were like, hey, let's just come back from the class of 2018, and then it evolved into this whole thing with alumni coming back. We sometimes have like 20 different alumni coming back on certain sessions. And I've also helped to run stuff like iOS Conf SG. So that's the largest iOS conference in Southeast Asia. And more interestingly, Students with Stars. So that's a program in Cupertino. So that's in California for WWDC winners. So Apple runs this annual competition called the Swift Student Challenge. So as part of that challenge, 50 distinguished winners get flown out to Cupertino for 3 days. So actually the competition is open right now. So if you're really interested, you can go and check it out. But that's besides the point. So when I was in Cupertino last year, we were like, can we bring all the students together for maybe an evening and have an event such that they can share with one another, they can network with one another, and it could just be an all-around like an amazing experience for the students and great for them to connect. So we planned this event. We had about 80 participants in total, and I think 13 presenters who were all distinguished winners. And finally, a more recent one is the Swift Student Collective. So we've started working with the Apple Education team to host these programs for students. So we have different workshops, for example, on the Swift Student Challenge, on Swift UI, and upcoming on accessibility. So all of these is really just to outreach to as many students as possible and just to get them inspired. Okay, so I think that is enough background on me and YJ. So let's move on to the program. So what is this Swift Accelerator program about? So Swift Accelerator, I think YJ mentioned, it was started in collaboration with IMDA and Apple. And it is this 8-month talent development program for high school students, secondary school students, secondary school and JC students lah. But yeah, so within that 8 months, you go through everything. So we start you off with design thinking. And then after that, you go through storytelling. So how can you present? How can you share your ideas? And then finally, you actually go on to coding and building your product. So one of the very important things that I need to mention here is that this is not a competition. This program is not a competition. It is not about whose app is the best at the end of 9 months. But this is actually a learning community. The purpose of everyone here is really to learn. It is not about, am I better than YJ or am I better than, some other student in class? It is really just about everyone is here to learn and to, learn more. And so that's what we've emphasized over the past few years. That's why we've had such an active alumni community. That's why, we encourage people to share ideas, collaborate, take risks. So, we actually do this thing where we encourage people to, if you want to try our feature, go ahead. We'll figure out whether or not the feasibility works at the end, but just try it out and figure it out. Whether it works or not, that's an issue for another time. But that's one of the very interesting things that really has, made me really want to come back. It's really the community and this whole culture of learning and the people around it. So we've run this program for the past 7 years. And it's been great every single year, but every single year is different. And this year and this coming batch will also be slightly different from the last because we learn with every batch and we change things slightly. So starting last year, we introduced this thing called alumni mentors. Okay, so with alumni mentors, basically these were Swift Accelerator alumni who come back and they're tied to a couple of groups and they mentor. And one of the things that we love about this is now we have alumni who are able to share what they've learned along the way with the new batch. And it really helps us, keep in touch with a lot of our alumni. So I've mentioned this thing called this challenge-based approach quite a few times. So what is this whole thing about? Okay. So in essence, in groups, students will, research, design, build apps, prototype, and just basically solve problems. So they'll build apps to solve problems in groups. And that is the basis of how we do our entire teaching within Swift Accelerator. Yes, there'll be lectures, but most of the time is spent applying what you learn in the lectures within these challenges. So how the challenges work is we have 3 challenges, challenge 1, 2, and 3, and they slowly build up in terms of scope. So in challenge 1, you start out with a single feature app. So this is a super simple app where we want to solve the problem with one feature. And then in challenge 2, we want you to explore, go further. So this is a frameworks-based app. So it's for example, I want to incorporate machine learning into my app. That's a framework that I can incorporate. So it's something more technology-driven. And then the last app, the most important one, is the App Store app. So that's the one that they publish it onto the App Store at the end of the day. So the aim of this whole challenge-based approach is really for students to identify a real problem and then build meaningful solutions around it. And we've split it up into several main stages. So it starts off with just ideation, so coming up with an idea. And then after that, they go through their research. Then after that, designing, then building, and finally, showcasing. And throughout this entire journey, they will learn storytelling for the showcase. They'll learn how to design. They'll learn, things about user experience, talking to people. Some even did surveys and stuff to find out more about their audience and research. And then also, what underpins everything? Coding, building your actual app in Swift. However, so what we've seen so far is the class of 2024, so they've launched 16 apps on the App Store. Every single group has managed to publish an app on the App Store. And I think we owe a large part of this thanks to the alumni mentors. When we started in 2018, when I was a student, we literally had 3 apps on the App Store, and now we're at like 16. So that's a great deal thanks to the alumni. But having an app on the App Store isn't the only thing. Behind the scenes, every single student would have at least built at least 3 apps. One on the App Store, but also at least 2 other apps, and maybe countless others like prototypes or just little proof of concepts to test out different things. And that is a very important part. It is not just about having one perfect app. It is about going through that process multiple times and then familiarizing yourself with that whole design thinking process. So another thing to touch on is after they finish this thing, they get one sponsored attempt, sponsored by IMDA, to take part in the app development with Swift Associate or Certified User certification. So this is an industry level certification that they can, put on their portfolios and stuff. And this is on top of the certificate they get at graduation from the Swift Accelerator program. Okay, so now I want to talk more about our impact, because we've been running this program for the past 7 years, and honestly, we've had quite big impact over the few years. So we've had 393 alumni. The animations are a bit slow, and across 49 different schools. And this is really remarkable for us because we started out with a handful of schools, 11 or so schools, and now we're able to reach as many, neighborhood schools and stuff. And that's really great for us. And on top of that, we've had over 90 apps on the App Store. Sorry, the animations are slightly slow here, but okay, we can get through that. But one of the interesting things over the years is that we've also been featured quite a bit. So we've been featured in over 50 news articles with, a whole bunch of Swift Student Challenge winners. And, yeah. Okay. So we've also got really great feedback from our alumni. So this is what Brian has mentioned. He really enjoyed the journey in Swift Accelerator and the whole hands-on approach. And here's another one from Ara. So Ara was one of our mentors, and she mentored with us for 2 challenges in last year. And she talked about the whole community aspect and how that it allowed her to experience a bunch of things. Okay, so now I'll pass it on to YJ to talk about the application process.
Okay, so now for I guess the practical aspects of all this. I see some questions, and I think we will be addressing some of them throughout. But if we don't, you can always drop us an email. It's on the website. Or if you've already sent us in the feedback with your email address, we will just reply to you. Okay, I know one of you said that you need to head off. We'll reply to you separately afterwards. Okay, so real quick for applying, there's a few things that you need to take note of in terms of the requirements. Okay, first thing is it's a long program. All right, so this thing over here is 180 hours long. It's 8 months, sometimes 9, depends, like it's March to perhaps November. That's 9 months actually, so we can't count. So 180 hours is no joke. All right, it's you imagine over 9 months, that's easily like 4 to 5 hours a week. The way the schedule works is that we tend to meet over the weekends, right, on Saturday. Okay, so I think we had a question about, is it after school? How do I make it to the venue in time? Not to worry, it's on the weekends and the holidays, all right? But you should be able to commit. If you cannot commit, if you're still interested in applying, but there are some things you don't know about, let's say you're pending something else, like a family thing, you can apply first and then let us know, and then we can see what we can do. Okay, so you do need access to the equipment. To develop for Apple technologies, you need a MacBook. All right. You cannot do this with okay, let's rewind a bit. So you need a MacBook in order to develop and publish an app on the App Store and to collaborate using the Xcode app. Okay. Some of you might have some experience working with iPad devices where you build apps on the iPad. That's okay, but it doesn't have the full set of features that we need in order to do everything that we need to do in this class, including collaborating on your code with other students. If you do not have access to a MacBook, don't let that stop you from applying. Some schools have access, some schools have their own. They've been loaning it out to the students. And if necessary, we should be able to have a pool of loan MacBooks, but we will need to, of course, we'll need to figure out how many people we can admit based on the number that we have, right? We don't want to promise to everyone. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, the equipment requirements and things like that, I think I saw a question about what MacBook do you need? Anything starting from the end of 2020, which is the Apple Silicon series, so the M1 and above. So that's actually quite far back. So you can probably find one of those fairly easily nowadays. Okay, so that's one thing, right? Who are we looking for, right? So we're looking for a certain type of person. We're not necessarily looking for, like super elite coder, can solve all your lead code questions and, ranked number 200,000 in the world in HackerRank or whatever. All right. We're looking for people who are curious. We're looking for people who are willing to experiment. Okay. Some of our graduates, right, they might walk away from the class saying, you know what, I might not be the best coder, but I'm pretty sure that I can come up with new things. I can help build an app in the future, right? That's who we're looking for. Okay, so you must be willing to try new things out. If you come in here and all you want to do is, a certain way of doing things, if you're only interested in, game development, right? We ask you to come in with open mind, right? And that's really one thing we're looking for. The second thing is we're looking for team players. These are folks who are willing to work in teams. Each of the challenges is already team-based. Okay, we will not be asking anyone, or I would say we're not going to allow anyone to be working on a project individually, because we think that if you wanted to do that, why don't you stay at home and watch some videos and learn on your own? Okay, so the aim is to get you working with other people, and all of you are in secondary school and above. You know what that entails. There are people who you have trouble working with. There are different roadblocks that will come your way. Be prepared for those. Okay, be prepared for those. And the last one is problem solvers. You're going to run into all kinds of interesting and entertaining problems along the way, and we ask that you are able to solve them. Don't just give up. Don't just look at a problem and say, I can't do this. If that's how you feel now, but you think you can develop that muscle to keep going at something, I think that will be very valuable for this program. Okay. All right. So next, the application process. The application process has changed a little bit this year, so please do take note if you know anyone who's joined us in the past. First of all, there's an application form. Okay, that's the same as before. That's where we find out a bit about you. We find out about your availability. We have a few short questions to test your knowledge and understanding of programming and coding and then design and things like that. Okay, please submit that online by 23rd of February at 11 p.m. That's in about 2 weeks' time. Is it 2 weeks' time? It's about 2 weeks' time. Okay. From there, we have a new component of the evaluation. Because teamwork and problem solving are so important to us, we're going to actually invite shortlisted students to a 45-minute session online. Okay, it's on a Zoom session, something like this. You will have a chance to enter your particulars inside there and say, okay, I'm available on this date, this date, this date, this date. What happens then is that we will actually get our mentors to come in and go through a simple activity with you. There's no preparation required. Camera just dropped. Hello. I'm alive. I didn't fall off the earth. That was the camera. Okay. And from there, the results will be released by the 5th of March. Okay. What happens? Why is it released by the 5th of March? Because we are starting class shortly after that. All right. So let me tell you a bit more about the application form. Okay. The application form is where we ask questions about you. Okay, your personal details, your contact information. Please be careful about what you're filling in there. You don't want to notify the wrong email address and about the shortlisting and things like that. The application test, all right, the details of this. I mean, you can go to the test form. It's live. You can go apply now. All right, it's got 4 coding questions, 2 design questions, and 2 written questions. Please attempt under exam conditions. This is something we're not going to ask you to, lock yourself in a room and make sure that someone's recording you or things like that during this application process. But if you, work with a friend and both of you end up with the same answers, that's really easy to tell. If you answer questions that you actually don't know how to solve by yourself, that is doing yourself a bit of a disservice, and I think you will have some trouble in the course when the time comes around. Okay, so there's not much that you actually need to study. I recommend that you maybe try the Swift Playgrounds Learn to Code series. You can, if you have an iPad, or just do a bit of intro coding before that. Okay, so don't stress too much about that. Try your very best. And if you're not ready, there's always a subsequent year that you can apply to, I hope. Okay. Finally, there's the evaluation activity. We'll ask you for availability for a 45-minute activity. This will be online. I believe the slots are on the weekends and generally after school. So I hope that you can find a slot that you can make it for. If you can't, leave a comment and we will figure something out with you. Okay. All right, so that's the briefing. I think we didn't mention the schedule, but the schedule is around March to November. It's available on the website. I think that camera is falling off. I heard the duct tape. So we have an interesting setup over here, and one day we might share it. But don't be surprised if interesting things happen. Okay, so anyway, the schedule is available on the application form site. All right, please head over there and you can go take a look. All right, that's it for the briefing. Now for some questions. At this point, okay. All right, I'm so sorry. There's interesting stuff happening with our cameras. Email us if you want to find out more. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to stall for time a bit and tell you and just answer some of frequently asked questions before I introduce you to our panel. Right, we actually have a couple of our assistant instructors over here, and they would love to answer your questions, but they're currently busy making sure that our cameras don't fall to the floor. I'm so sorry. Okay, so anyway, who can apply? All right, who can apply? I hope you read through the page, but it is on the page. All right. We can accept secondary school students from MOE schools. We can accept JC students if your schedules allow it. We can accept secondary 4 students doing your O-levels if your schedule allows for it, and you are confident that this doesn't mess with your studies. Okay. I am not sure I recommend that, but I think you can make a decision. At this point, you are 16 years old. I suspect you should be able to figure this out for yourself. Okay, so we don't want you to blame us for doing badly at O-levels. All right, do take a careful look at the schedule. I think one of the things, I think we do have breaks in the schedule for things like exam period. So we generally stop after the September holidays. But for secondary 4 students, that might overlap with your prelims or things like that. All right, I'm fairly certain we don't overlap with the O-levels themselves. But yeah, please take a look at the schedule. Okay. For polytechnic and international school and non-MOE schools, I'm afraid we are unable to receive your application. This is due to funding matters and it's a bit beyond our control. If you are still interested in learning, please just drop us an email. We will try and point you at the necessary resources. Okay. That camera is down again. Okay, I'll continue to answer some frequently asked questions. One of the questions was, where is the class held? Is it online? Where is it held? It's actually at Apple. Okay. Wait, hang on a second. Okay, sorry. Let me talk about dates and times, the schedule real quick. Okay. So for the schedule, it's on Saturday mornings or afternoons. And this is something that we just pioneered in last year. Okay, we used to have one session on Saturday morning for the first 6 years. And what we realized was that a bunch of folks are unable to make it on Saturday morning because of tuition, or I think some of you have a third language or other. Yeah, feel free to move the camera as I'm talking. Okay. So yeah, for Saturdays we have a morning session or an afternoon session where we ask you, when the time comes, during the application we'll ask you to indicate your preference for each of them. But if you can make it for both, right, please let us know. Right, just check both, and we can that will help us a lot in allocating people to classes. Okay. We will meet on weekdays during the holidays, so March, June, September, and November holidays. Okay, so every single holiday we will be meeting. We'll try to limit our time to either the start or the end of the holiday to try and minimize disruption to maybe your family travel schedule or your revisions or things like that. Okay. Again, the schedule is available online. You can just go there and take a look. Next, location. The classes will be held face-to-face at Apple Singapore, and by this we mean the Apple office, not the Apple store. Please don't show up at Orchard Road. Okay, this is at 2 Fusionopolis Way and Innovis, right? It's a nice little office, and it's your chance to step into the Apple office every week. It's not the chance that everyone gets, to be honest. It's going to be an interesting time for you to come here and see how things work. And of course, there are hosts. We will of course ask certain requirements of you, and yeah, that's the general idea. Okay, we might sometimes need alternative venues. We have had interesting situations in the past where the fire alarm went off because we have lessons on Saturdays. So we might have alternative venues such as the Apple Developer Center, which is very new, and it's a special center meant for programmers like yourself. Okay, and if absolutely necessary, we might ask you to drop by my office, which is in near Marymount. That's perhaps for people who need to loan devices or pick up things. That's where we will be, and that's where we might ask you to hit. We are unlikely to hold an entire class there. There's also a chance that we conduct some classes online, but that's not preferred for us because of the strong, hands-on and collaborative nature of what we do. I think our cameras are almost secure. Okay. More frequently asked questions, cost free. All right, you do not have to pay for anything. However, we do not sponsor meals. So yeah, I mean, there will be full day classes during the weekdays. We'll give you plenty of time to go and eat right around this area. If you know One North MRT, there's plenty of food. Okay, so you can bring your own food, you can go out and eat, you'll have plenty of time for that. But other than that, the cost is free. If you need to loan a MacBook, there might be a small admin fee. That is a lot less than it would cost to buy one, of course. Okay. All right. Speaking of which, sorry, here we go. No device. If you do not have a device, we will aim to loan one out to you. Okay. But if possible, see whether your schools can loan you one. Okay. We understand that schools can loan from MOE somehow, but I think your teachers would know best. Right, especially if you're an InfoComm club, right? I think your teachers are quite familiar with the process if your school has worked with us before. Okay, do you want to select morning, afternoon? Like I mentioned, select both if you can, right? Yeah, selecting, if you can make it for both, tell us, right? In case the morning slot is completely full, right? Then at least we have a chance to put you in the afternoon slot, something like that. Okay, so we want to make sure that you can get in if you can make it. All right. If you're in the morning slot and you want to stay for the afternoon slot, perfectly fine. If you're in the afternoon slot, you wake up very early, you want to come for the morning slot, perfectly fine. Just yeah, feel free. All right. We are pretty flexible about this. Okay. All right. Are there makeup classes? There are no makeup classes. All right. So we tend to record the briefings for each class. And the content for each class is usually recorded separately. So if you want to get caught up with the materials, you can, but it is your own responsibility. So take that into account when you're applying. Let's say you're going to miss, like we say we require 80% attendance. You're going to miss 20% of the class. And you're going to miss the first 20% of the class. Please make absolutely certain that you are able to get caught up before you join us, because again, very collaborative class. If you come in and you're the group member who has no idea what's going on, that's not going to be good for anyone. Okay, so if you know you can't make it, right, reach out, we can discuss this. Okay, one last question. All right, what if you're not invited to the, wait, hang on, where am I? Wait, here. Oops, sorry. No, that's us. Oh, wait, hang on. Skip a bunch of slides. Try to go back. Okay, so if you're not invited to evaluation activity, okay, so one thing, I don't think we mentioned this number, all right, but we can only take in 60 students a year. Okay, this used to be 50. We managed to fight for a bit more. Okay, and we are only able to take in 60 students a year. And usually, in terms of how many applications we can get up to 100 to 200 applications. So we do need to do a bit of filtering. If you're not ready this year, that's okay, right? It just means you're not ready. And if you are in secondary 1 or whatever, it means that you have time. Okay, so Also, do take note that if you're invited to the evaluation activity, it doesn't mean that you're in. We will shortlist more than we are able to take in, because we want to, just get a sense of all of you. Okay. If you're very disappointed by all this, if you're not able to get in, it's okay. We'll try and send you some materials for you to learn on your own, and we will try to help you get ready for the program subsequent year, perhaps. Okay, all right, that's it for me. I think our cameras are stable and not about to fall off. I'd like to introduce a couple of folks. Okay, so over here we have Sean.
Am I supposed to introduce myself now? Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Sean. For the class of 2025, I'll be the assistant trainer for the AM session. So I'll be assisting YJ in sort of facilitating the class, mentoring a few groups, as well as just generally and just generally try and look out for things like student welfare and whatnot for the folks that are trying to get into the PM session. No worries, usually I'll stay the whole day. So a quick introduction about myself. I am in my last year of national service. I come back to Swift Accelerator to help out on the weekends because as part of the class of 2018, just like Jiachen, I did Swift Accelerator is basically where I got my introduction to the whole world of tech, and it has opened up a lot of opportunities for me. So I'm here to sort of give back to the community and help raise the next generation of talent, you could say. I have here one such example. He is Tristan. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, so I'm Tristan, and for the class of 2025, like Sean, I'll be an assistant trainer, but I'll be with Jiachen for the PM session. So I guess a quick introduction about me. I just graduated secondary school last year, so right now I'm in between my time, like at the end of Sec 4 and the start of poly. So I have a lot of time, and yeah, I don't know. Fun fact about myself. I love Swift Accelerator. I come back to give back to the community, and I just love to help people out. So that's great.
So I want to point out that the Q&A form is still live. I think it's under my feet. There it is. Okay. Yeah, please feel free to send in your questions, and we'll try and address them. I'm going to invite my colleagues over here to answer some of these questions. Okay. So I think one of the questions, I think we've answered some of these questions, but let me just pose this one to Jiachen and Sean. All right. Since there are 4 coding questions, does it mean that the course is meant for students who have coding experience?
So while on one hand, yes, we do expect some amount of coding experience, the questions are designed in a way that really you can just read through it, and it more tests logical thinking than actual coding. So by design, all of the coding questions, we include comments so that, if you're not familiar with Swift, you can still read through the comments, you can still read through and understand step by step what's going on. What we're testing isn't really so much your coding, but more your logical thinking.
Okay. Any tips for them, like to get ready for the application?
I think something that we really do look for, I think Jiachen has already mentioned, the coding questions, they don't necessarily require you to have extensive knowledge of the Swift language beforehand. But something that we do look for in the essay questions, the 3 questions or so that we pose to you, something that we're looking for is interest, right? We've established already, you don't necessarily need to be some generational talent in coding, and you don't need to have solved 27,000 lead code hards before you come into this program. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people that are genuinely interested in learning and developing themselves through the program. And if we can see that through your written responses and to a certain extent your performance in the evaluation activity, I think that is what sets apart a student that we think is outstanding and belongs in Swift Accelerator versus someone who may not be as interested overall in learning and developing themselves across the span of the program.
Okay. All right, thanks. So I think some of these are to do with logistical issues. Anyone can answer these. What time are the classes? Have we fixed that for the year?
Yeah, so the classes are 9 a.m. for the morning batch, so it's 9 to 12:30, and then 1:30 to 5 p.m. for the afternoon batch. However, that's on Saturdays. So during school holidays, what we do is we have weekday classes, because one of the advantages that we get with weekday classes is that we can invite more people. So we can invite some of our friends from Apple to come and share. We can invite some other developers to come and share, because who wants to come back to work on a weekend? Yeah.
You.
Oh, yes. But yeah, so that's what we generally try to do within our weekday classes. But one of the key things that we try to do is we make sure that you still can go on your holidays. So for example, in June, we only touch the first and the last week of your June holidays. In the middle, feel free to go anywhere. Yeah. And for the March holidays, I believe our schedule is just on Monday and on Friday, or something at the edges of the week. You can check.
The full schedule is
Yeah.
on the website. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
To answer more exactly, I think I saw a question where someone said their son has to go to non-Tamil Indian language classes until 1 p.m. on Saturdays. So in this case, I think selecting the PM cohort would be good. You have 30 minutes to get from, I believe it's the language center in Bishan to over here. But I believe the train ride should be enough such that you can show up on time. Just
Yeah.
in time.
It's been done, right? It's
Yeah.
been done by our students. I think NTIL was one of the reasons why we realized that we needed an afternoon session. So I hope that helps a little bit. Okay. What do you guys think about skipping lessons? If you have to skip lessons, how?
I think to a certain extent, we obviously discourage it. We have written like 80% attendance requirement, but I mean, there's also the issue of like, it's a group work, you don't want to be that guy in your group and be like, MIA for the next 2 weeks. So, it's still, your responsibility if you're going to go missing to A, inform us, and B, inform your team members. So, you can commit to them like, hey, when I'm gone, can you help do this? And I will commit to doing A, B, and C before I leave, or something like that.
I think that delegation of work is really important if you're going to miss out a lesson, because if not, and you just go radio silent for whatever reason, it just leaves everyone in your group sort of in disarray. In our experience, having mentored groups before, it is really frustrating to have someone agree to work and then just randomly not show up the next week without saying anything. We understand that sometimes there are actual valid reasons to skip classes, because there are things that are more important in life than Swift Accelerator, of course. But at the same time, it is the responsibility of the student to actually make sure that they keep their group informed, like Jiaxuan said. And I believe the person who asked this question isn't in the briefing anymore, because they had to leave. But someone asked whether, if they couldn't make some of the lessons due to time commitment issues. This is a tangentially related question. Can they give up their slot to someone else? If you look at the schedule and you think you'll have commitment issues to miss a substantial amount of lessons, even if you hit the 80% attendance requirement, our suggestion would be to not apply to the program, because let's say you hit that 80% and you skip 20%. Theoretically, you could still graduate, but now you're on very thin ice. What happens if you fall sick for a session, right? You'll fall below that, and already with so many sessions that you're guaranteed to skip, it's really not conducive to your group mates. I don't think it will be fair to them to actually have so many sessions where you're not there to work with them either.
And I guess on top of if you have to be away, on top of just delegating tasks and making sure that they do outside of lessons, I guess minimally keep in touch, because we don't want a case where if you're gone for 1-2 sessions and then you come back and then you just don't know what's going on anymore. Your group mates are at level 10,000 and you're at level 2. So just keep in touch with them, at least figure out what's going on. Ask them if they need help or something like that. So yeah.
Okay. I'm mindful of the fact that it's 11. If anyone needs to head out, this will be recorded. Skip to 1 hour down the line if you need to when we send you the recording.
And if you ask the question and you're waiting for it, don't worry, we'll also send you the answer to the question as an email.
All right. So I have a question here about like how to improve general idea. Okay, so one is, will having my own Mac increase my chances of getting accepted? Would you recommend buying a Mac for this program? Let me just start by saying that we have no commercial interest in this. We get zero commission, or I think we're not here to sell any Macs or anything. But of course, it is a requirement because you can't develop this on anything else. Okay, so anyone want to take this?
Okay, so for our application process, we do not look at whether you have a Mac or not until the end when we go like, do we have enough Mac to loan out? Then we will work with, okay, so over the past few years, I can say that, we have not had to reject people because they didn't have a Mac, okay? So that's been great. But, we also don't want to be in a situation where we would have to. So in theory, it might increase your odds. But as a whole, for your learning experience, having your own Mac is always preferable to loaning out a Mac, because you'll literally have the Mac for 9 months, and after that you have a bunch of your stuff on it, and then you have to basically wipe the entire device and then return it to us.
I should probably mention how the Mac loan would work. It's not as though we're going to pass it to you in class and then you take it and then we take it back at the end of every session. That would be very troublesome for us. We will be able to loan it for the entire duration of the program. But I also want to emphasize that we don't want anyone out there rushing out to spend their parents' money just to apply for this program.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be very irresponsible for us to recommend. Okay, so if you think it's something that you want, right? If your parents agree to it, right, and you get the program and you can get your own Mac, right? They are not unaffordable right now, right? So I would say that any base model will actually do really well for the program nowadays. So that's something to think about, all right? But like we said, we will not select based on that. Okay.
And if you're interested in any recommendations for like specs or where you can buy it, because there are multiple different places that you can purchase a Mac. The Apple Education Store is one, or the third-party resellers like Shopee, Lazada, and stuff. They might have cheaper deals on that as well.
Again, we get nothing out of this. Yeah. Okay, so Tristan, Sec 4 students who have taken the class. Will they be at a disadvantage if they are Sec 4 or GC student?
It depends on your schedule, because if let's say you are not very good at studying, or like your studies are not very good, right? And you spend more time in it, then that naturally means that you skip more sessions.
Yeah.
And that will put you at a disadvantage, because then you won't know what's going on in class. And if we cover things like lessons or content or like code content in class, then you won't be able to get any feedback if you have any questions. Like you won't be able to ask mentors basically. But we always have lesson recordings for our sessions every week, and it will be uploaded, so you can always go back and watch that. But I guess you will be slightly behind with your group, but if let's say you can make it work, then I don't think you'll be disadvantaged that much, because honestly, it really depends on how many sessions you are going to skip at the end of the day. Like if you really want to set aside Saturday for Swift Accelerator, which it's up to you, but that can also be a possibility.
Yeah, I think you need to have a good understanding of your own limitations and maybe other factors as well, because maybe you think you're doing fine, but by the end of the year, your parents ground you and tell you can't come for Swift Accelerator. That's going to affect a bunch of other people as well. Okay.
In practice, what we've seen from Sec 4 and JC students, we've had JC students come through the program and graduate successfully. We've also had JC students who ended up having to like rebalance their schedules and stuff and ended up dropping out of the program. So I would say for JC students, it really depends on how well you can handle the workload. If you're secondary 4, on the other hand, it depends on what sort of program you're in. If you're an integrated program, we have generally found that students can balance their like year-end examinations well enough, such that they can maintain their placing without losing too much by spending their time, spending their Saturdays at Swift Accelerator. On the other hand, for O-level students, we have also seen a whole bunch of O-level students come in and graduate the program, all whilst balancing their O-levels. Our word of warning on that is that it is going to be pretty tough. And of course, much more is at stake for your O-levels versus your integrated program final year exams. So I would caution those who are secondary for taking their O-levels to really reconsider whether you will have the time to actually balance both developing an app as well as your O-levels. The most intensive part of the program, Challenge 3,
Coincides
where
with
it coincides with O-levels and the major study preparation that sort of goes up to that. So that is our word of caution. If you feel like you can take on the challenge, go ahead and sign up. We are not going to, of course, reject people just because, hey, we don't think this guy can, handle the workload. We will take we will take your application at face value. We assume that if you apply, you can keep up with the workload.
All right. So I guess on that note, we have a question about November. There are some schools that might end earlier, end later, and things like that. Any thoughts on that? Because what usually happens in November?
I think I'm best suited to answer that.
Yeah.
So
Most recent.
generally in November, your school holidays for secondary school students, they start at about week 8.
Yep.
And so between week 8 and week 10, your school can still call you back to do whatever co-curricular activities that you have, or any extra lessons, remedials, or whatever not. But I would advise that if you have any school activities, to go for school activities, because you shouldn't prioritize Swift Accelerator over your studies. Like if you have school, just go for school. Okay.
At the same time, I guess just be fair to your teammates, right? Be fair to your teammates. Just be aware that, if you were them, how would you feel about someone who never shows up or never communicates, right? I think we've had people who had to go off for, a week-long OBS because I understand that OBSs are now like randomly at the end of the year now. But as long as they did the work before and after, we understand you can't code during OBS. I think that was okay, right? As long as you are, you can keep up on your end. So I think you know yourself best. And of course, we know that there will be surprises along the way. Your school might say, oh yeah, congratulations, you're going for 3-week OBS or whatever. Okay. But just be prepared to be a good team member. Okay. Question over here. Do you have to study after each session to keep up?
I wouldn't say you have to study. The real studying is for example, if you miss a session, then you might want to catch up, especially if it's a content heavy lesson. So for example, if we're introducing a concept, it might be very useful for you to make sure you watch the video if you completely missed out on it. One of the unique facets of this challenge-based learning approach that we're doing is that you're applying what you might do as homework in your normal school is actually your challenge. So that's what you spend working with your team members to build. So as you build it, you apply your skills, you apply what you just learned, and then you build something out of it.
All right. Some admin related things. Can we edit our availability after we submit?
For
let's say maybe someone was submitted already.
No, for the
evaluation, I assume.
Okay, just drop us an email at hello@swiftnsg.org, or you can reply to your confirmation email.
Okay, so if you need to make any changes, let us know, right? And then we can help you out with that. What skills do I need to join this? I think we've kind of gone through that. You might want to skip back to the first couple of questions. Okay, I think that might be it in terms of questions. If you have a last minute question, you can fill in the form really fast. I'm going to give you a minute while I quickly look through all this. Just some of the admin things. Someone asked about certificate of participation. I hope you caught the bit where we said there are two certs if you so choose. One is a certificate of participation, and one is the certification. And that's an exam. You actually have to take it under it's online exam. You need 70%. We'll tell you more about it. As an industry certification, but that's optional. If you're not a fan of exams and you're just here to build things, we're okay with that. Okay, but it's free if you want it. Anything else? How many people are selected every year? So I think we mentioned that. We're looking at 60. Okay. And what if both okay, so there was a question about can we just use Swift Playground?
No.
You wanna take that? So because I know some of you have iPads and you have Swift Playground and you're familiar with it. But
So yes, so on one hand, yes, Swift Playground can build Swift apps, but it's quite limiting when you talk about anything further. So the first thing is most of our app development is for iPhone. So Swift Playground for iPad does not support iPhone development. And the other thing is Xcode is just a more powerful developer tool. So it's like, asking in a Final Cut Pro course, can I use iMovie? The equivalent for Final Cut Pro is Premiere Pro or something like that. So it is just a lot more powerful. There are a lot more developer tools and a lot more options so that you can build a more powerful app. Yeah.
Okay. I think we got another question again about whether if we would need to loan a Mac, will I be at a disadvantage? You might want to skip back a bit. We did answer this. This is a admin question. What if I don't have a teacher liaison in my school?
Contact your form teachers. Yeah.
I guess the teacher's responsibility is you can let them know, right? Because they'll randomly get an email from us if you get in. You can let them know that you're applying for this program. There's no particular responsibility that they need to take for you, right? They don't need to show up for class with you, right? I think that's one thing that some teachers are worried about. Let them know. We'll invite them to the showcases. We're going to have some showcases throughout the year and at graduation, and that's about it. It's up to them whether they can make it, right? Of course, these are on Saturdays. Okay, so yeah, for those of you who are in Infocom clubs or Infocom media, robotics related AV clubs, please put that teacher in charge. It's very likely that they already know about this program.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think that's it. Any parting words for our potential applicants?
One more thing to mention, if you're watching the recording of this and you still have a question, you can still scan the QR code and you can submit it in and we'll reply you with an answer via email. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Oh, there's one more question that just popped up. Do we need to submit a portfolio?
No. So we actually don't have any requirement for a portfolio. So how we gauge your skills is really based on those questions and then the evaluation activity if required.
Again, what we're looking for in the program is, the desire to learn, right? We have actually asked for portfolio in the past few rounds of Accelerator, and what we have found is that having a good portfolio or even an outstanding portfolio does not necessarily translate to performing well for whatever definition that is within Swift Accelerator itself, because there are a lot more things that contribute to being what we would consider a good student for a Swift Accelerator. There are things like working well together in teams. There are things like having that capacity to learn and open your mind so that you can really subscribe to the way that we teach. And these are things that cannot be conveyed through your achievements. They can only be conveyed by us observing how you guys work as students while learning.
That's it. I do have to also point out that an invitation to the evaluation activity is not an indicator of whether you got accepted or not.
Yeah. And I guess I should add this. If there are no slots in which you are available for the evaluation activity, do not worry as well, because if you, let's say, if you can't make it last minute for your slot in the evaluation activity, we will not penalize your submission or application in any way. The evaluation activity is meant for us to get more information on how you guys work together, how applicants work together in a team. And so if we don't have that information, then we'll just have to make the application decision without that. But rest assured that it is not the be all end all. It is not one of the main deciding factors into whether you get into the program or not.
Okay. And so I guess on that note, let's just I just like to finish things off by saying, yeah, even if you don't manage to get in this year, it's not that you don't qualify for the program, maybe you're just not ready for the program this year. Okay. I have it on decently good authority that we will be continuing this program in the future. So yeah, there's always subsequent years, especially for those of you who, you know, just fresh out of primary school and you're you know thinking of applying to this. Don't stress, you have plenty of time, right? So yeah, and if you're interested in, you can't make it for the program, drop us an email. You're still interested in the link, drop us an email, right? We can share some of the materials that we have, how we recommend our students learn and things like that. Okay. All right. On that, I think we can call it a day on this recording. Thank you to Danbin over here who has been, you know, holding our camera steady. I wish I could show you. Yeah, that's his thumb right there. Right. I wish I could show you him holding our camera steady for the last 20 minutes. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to all the alumni who are here to help us out today. Thanks. Okay. All right. That's it. All the best. We will see you hopefully
In class.
In class.